Hi everybody. So this is a little bit more about your phase 4. So keep in mind as we're going through this that I'm still working on grading your phase 3 and giving you feedback, but that you should be able to work on your phase 4 even before you hear feedback from me about your phase 3. That being said, if you have very specific questions about your study's design with your different variables, then you can go ahead and check with me to make sure that we're on the same page. So you need to have a methods section. That's what phase 4 is all about. You're going to be outlining your participants, your study's design. There's a talk about that you can check out in order to get more information. Your study's procedure, and also statements of risk assessment and confidentiality, which will help you when you have to write your IRB proposal next semester. I'm also asking for you to clarify your study's materials, specifically to outline the different questionnaires that you'll be administering and to provide some more details about those questionnaires. I'm also asking you to provide copies of the questionnaires in appendices. It's important that you make sure that you have a really firm idea of what your different groups are and what they're doing. So you should have a clear notion of what you're manipulating and what you're measuring. And if you have questions about that, you should probably check in with me. As a reminder, I do have office hours this week, and I'm available to answer questions and to take a look at your particular study and talk with you a little bit more to make sure that this is very clear. You might have to revisit phase 1 again just to kind of wrap your brain around once again what you're manipulating, what you're measuring, what your different groups are, just to make sure that that's very clear. As a reminder, this is intended to be a proposal, so I expect you to use future tense when talking about your different sections. This is just a prompt from the IRB proposal that you'll be filling out next semester. So this asks the person who's applying for IRB approval to specify who the project participants or research subjects will be, how they'll be solicited, recruited, or contacted, and so on. So this is one of the things that I want you to think about in your method section, and this is why, because you'll be asked to talk about that in further detail on the IRB form. Here's another selection of the IRB form regarding participant confidentiality. This is one of the reasons why I'm having you reflect on it now so that this part is easier for you to fill out later. The form in the IRB asks you to describe how you will safeguard the privacy of your participants and ensure the confidentiality of data obtained, including plans for storage, publication, and destruction of data, including that of computer, print, videotape, and audio materials. I really want you to just start thinking about this. We'll go through the mechanics of how specifically you will keep participant data confidential for your particular study once we actually get to the point where we're going to be running participants next semester. But I do want you to start thinking about it. I also want you to think about the risks in your study and how you will minimize those risks. Keep in mind that there is no such thing as a no-risk study, that what you want to do is explain why your risks are considered minimal, the sort of risks one could expect to experience during the course of a normal day, and to go ahead and go into more detail about any potential risks that might be involved, even if they appear to be fairly minor, like embarrassment or discomfort. And then to clarify how you will mitigate that risk, so how you will reduce the risk, and more specifically, things like you can skip over any question at any time or you can leave the study at any time without penalty are classic ways of minimizing risk in a minimal risk study. So think about how you will minimize your risks using methods like that. And once again, I'm asking you to reflect on risks because it is part of the IRB application. And if you start thinking about it now, it'll be easier for you to fill out that section in future. When it comes to your study's design, keep in mind that I have a talk that you can listen to about studies designs in general and the notation system that we use. You need to go ahead and clarify if your study is within, between, or mixed. You also have to identify how many variables you have and how many levels each variable has. And you need to clarify which variables are randomly assigned. The design statement is a specific statement, and I give you an example that you can base your design statement off of and model in that particular talk. So I would recommend that you look at the talk to see what sort of design statement you might create for your study. That being said, most of you will have a 2x2 between participant design. Make sure that it's very clearly labeled and that you clarify what your different levels are and which one of your variables is randomly assigned. But that's what most of you are starting with, that 2x2 between participant design. It's also important, once again, that you label your groups and your levels. See the example in the design section for more information. When it comes to materials and appendices, interlibrary loan is a distinct challenge because a lot of libraries are closed. So our librarians are struggling a little bit with finding access to interlibrary loan materials. I've asked you to try to find original versions of your questionnaires. That is going to be challenging, and I want to make sure to go through just a little bit more about considerations in light of the challenges with interlibrary loan. So first of all, I have access to several scales that I use regularly, and if you need them, you can ask me for them and I'll give them to you. I have scales related to self-esteem, self-efficacy, empathy, interpersonal support, anxiety, stress, colorblind racism, various personality scales. Basically, it never hurts to ask. If you're having trouble finding a scale with items, then talk to me and I might have a copy of the scale that you can use. You can also extrapolate if you've read a study that uses a particular measure that you wish to use, but you can't get your hands on it right now. You will know some things based on that other study's description of the scale that they used. You will know the scale's name, you will know the scale citation, and you can have some information about the scale based on the information the authors that used the scale provided in terms of the number of items that there are, the range, the anchors, etc. So you can take how other people have described the scale as an example of the sort of things that are in that scale, even if you don't have access to the scale right in front of you. I'm going to be flexible when it comes to this. I do want you to make an effort to try to find the scale and to talk to me if you can't find a scale, because I might have something that you can use. If you can't put your hands on it, I'm not going to take off points, but I do want you to make an effort.